Round one of the chase is in the books. One chaser, Dave, went up in smoke.
Blown up. Mine went up in smoke. Done.
While another reigned supreme.
Pinch me. I'm sure I'm sleeping. I'm sure I'm dreaming.
NASCAR President Mike Helton stops by to answer questions about the chase and the sport. We'll preview the second stop in the chase. So stick around. Win starts in 30 seconds. This Week in NASCAR is brought to you by Geico. And hi, everybody. I'm Steve Burns. Glad you're with us. We think every show is a big show, but really excited about today because NASCAR President Mike Helton will join us a little bit later on. Right now, Jimmy Spencer. Glad you're back, Spence.
Thank you.
Greg Biffle. Michael Waltrip back from Rome via New Hampshire.
Yeah, it was a nice trip. I went from Richmond to Rome to New Hampshire, so it's good to be back with you guys.
You're a world traveler. Well, guys, the big headline, obviously, Mark Martin wins the first race in the chase at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, a milestone win in many ways. His fifth win of 2009, 40th career win, and first win for Mark in 26 New Hampshire races. Mark led twice for 68 laps. Jimmy Spencer, a big win for Mark in a lot of different ways. Pick one out.
Well, I think that he's shown people that he could solidify that I am here for this championship. He's been in the top 10 all year long, and they said, oh, he lucked into Michigan when, Greg and Jimmy ran out of gas. He lucked into some of these races, but I don't think they're looking at how consistent that team has been all year long.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I see is Mark Martin, 26 tries at Loudon, is able to win this time. He goes there with being in the chase and being, leading the championship. I think that's big for him. Big statement, to be able to go somewhere you've tried for so long to win and win.
I like him because he's old.
Because you see him every week. You've seen him for a long time. It looks to me like he's having fun, and I think that's a big deal.
Well, for so many years we talked about Mark being Eeyore. It's probably going to rain today. And he's over that. He's just having fun racing his car. And I just love seeing the performance of that team, man. It's just so fun to watch him go. It's fun to see a smile on his face. And I watched him at driver introduction Sunday. He was sitting over to the side all by himself, and I looked over at him. And, we text back and forth and talk a little bit. And I looked over at him, and he went, you could just tell. He said, this is going to be a good day for me, and it turned out being a great day.
Yeah. He gave you the nod.
It was subtle, but I just felt it. I felt like he was saying, watch this, bud.
Yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at the point standings because, as Greg said, Mark Martin came into the chase as the leader, and guys, he has the lead after the first of 10 races.
Well, I think the story is Casey Kane, 161 back. I believe he's out of this thing. He's almost a full race back, but the thing is Jimmy Johnson seems to be back to his stride. I mean, he is at top 5. He's the only guy that has consistently, when it comes chase time, can keep popping in top 5 finishes.
Isn't that crazy, though? Casey Kane raced all year long to be a part of the chase. He runs one race, runs 60 laps, motor blows up, and Spence says he's out. It's hard to argue that he's out, with the performance of the team. Yeah. They've been up and down, but they've not been consistent enough to think that they can make up that much ground.
That's a product of our point system. There's been a lot of talk about, do you take the chase drivers and put them in their own, so Casey's got 12th place points right now instead of, 43rd place finish moves him back so far in the running.
38th. But
I've heard
38th.
I've heard that before. I know that there's statisticians that have done the history on it, and maybe it didn't change it a lot, or it did change it a lot, but everybody always is trying to tweak something, change something.
Well, what was funny is, Mark said to us on our show, Victory Lane, that, I think you can be out of a race. And I think if you look at it, they look at the past history and saying, well, Jimmy Johnson did have a bad day at New Hampshire because that's won the championship. But I think the competition level this year is as high as it's ever been. Yep. And I don't think you can have that failure this year.
No mulligans.
I don't think you can have a mulligan.
Not going to happen.
Nope.
It wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
What is a mulligan?
A do-over, you know, a free one. Like you've never done that on the golf course. Well, right after this, all the best scanner in Radioactive, including Mark Martin not really knowing he was racing for the win. Loudon was a race to forget for a couple chasers, including the aforementioned Casey Kane. All the highlights coming up. Plus, NASCAR President Mike Helton will join us in just a bit. We'll ask him if the chase needs tweaking. Stay with us.
This Week in NASCAR is presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Brought to you in part by Wrangler, proud sponsor of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Wrangler, real, comfortable jeans. And by NASCAR Banking, only from Bank of America. Your debit card, your credit card, your driver. Learn more at Bank of America Banking Center today.
Yesterday in the Sylvania 300, 7 of the chase drivers finished in the top 10. And Greg, in the post-race comments, I heard your teammate Carl Edwards say, we just weren't that fast. You, on the other hand, said we were pretty good. I just never got track position. Explain that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's so difficult with these new cars. Track position, we talk about clean air, clean air, clean air. You know, and then you argue that, well, the leader's in traffic. You know, so he's not always in clean air. But the reality was, I was grouped up back there in those cars. I felt like my car was better than where we ended up. Because when you break loose and you're running with those top 5 guys, you can pick your own line around the racetrack. You can arc it down in there, use a little bit of the apron, run where that guy's not. And I just felt like I was a little better than 9th yesterday. I felt like I was a top 5 car. I fought from 22nd all the way to 9th. 9th is when the show was over, but that's as far as I got up. I felt like if it had been 400 miles, I could have got to that top 5.
I like what I saw out of Elliott Sadler yesterday. He's not a chaser. We come off turn 2 one time, and I'm looking at Elliott's side of his car. I see number 19, and Elliott's going, you know,
Hey,
he's
Mikey.
looking over there and seeing who all's going to hit him. Next thing I know, I get crashed. All of us crashed. We drive off. My car wasn't hurt very bad. But when the race was over, he rallied to an 8th place finish, and we haven't seen the performance of Elliott. And tip your hat also to Bobby Labonte. He's in that car. Another solid run for him in the 71 car. I love the way he qualified. I love what he said after qualifying. He's like, I know how to qualify still. I thought I forgot. And that's refreshing to see a cat that's won the championship and had the success he's had get literally so excited over a solid qualifying run.
I think Bobby Labonte will be in a real good ride next year.
Could be. He went to that driving school, right, where he learned how to drive.
Yeah, he didn't forget, and he's so happy.
Yep. Well, you know, every week we talk about how exciting it is to listen to the drivers and the teams. Well, if you can imagine, the intensity will pick up even more for the last 9 races of this season. Here's Radioactive from yesterday in New Hampshire.
Radio, check 1, 2. 10-4, got you. Check 1, 2. I got you there. You got me okay? Got a copy. 10-4.
While 43 drivers will race for the win, the focus now is on the 12 racing for just 1 trophy as the chase for the Sprint Cup begins.
This is the start of what's important, so no matter what happens today, do not give up no matter what. We get every point we can.
We're waiting for this one for about 9 months and 20 days this year. Really excited about the opportunity we've got ahead of us here, guys.
Let's focus on what we can do. 300 of our best right here. We'll be in great shape. C-Pace car is off. Ready, green.
It's going to be a fierce battle to lead lap 1 here in New Hampshire as they come back to the stripe.
I'm glad you were clear on that 24 when you got loose off.
Man, where did we go wrong today? Don't mark to go or get off me, damn it.
Trying to find out where I'm at here. It's all bound up. They're doing a good job, man. Doing a really good job. Be smooth here. Keep an eye on the big picture here today. Want me to go drive like hell, wear the tires out, or kind of sit here and wait for that caution?
Drive like hell. Let's get some positions, buddy.
Oh, pit this time. Pit this time.
I don't think we needed a pit.
Go, 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 go. One lane, one lane, one lane, one lane.
Mother. Excellent job, Pat. I'm so proud of this group. Why did I pit?
Well, I'm going to go for the 8 side. You're the starter. More, don't worry about it. The worrying was last week.
Juan Pablo Montoya doesn't get a great start. Hamlin will lead for the first time this afternoon.
Go get him. This is your race.
Here's Mark Martin doing everything he can to push this 5 car.
Just watching him back there. I just wanted to show you what it could do. Caution's out, man. Caution's out for debris. Probably a show caution there. Unfortunately, I think so. We had that one. We still can get it.
Mark Martin is the leader. Side by side, they are door to door, and Martin will take the advantage.
Team
If 5 car does that again to me, I'm going to wreck his ass. Not cool at all. You're the best. This is yours right here.
He came in the points leader. He will leave the points leader. Checkered flag for Mark Martin.
You are unbelievable. Unbelievable how good you are. I'm speechless. I can't talk right now, boys. That's the hardest one I remember getting in a long time.
Man, that's my favorite part, the radioactive feature. I mean, so much emotion inside those race cars. You listen to the crew chief, the driver, Juan Montoya, Kurt Busch, didn't want to pit and then gets in the accident on pit road. It's just, so many things go on behind the scenes, and, people at home can obviously listen to that and enjoy that. Well, unfortunately, I only get to talk to my spotter and the crew chief, but all kinds of things going on.
Boys aren't messing around, are they?
No, they're on the game today.
It's intense.
I was talking about yesterday.
Yeah.
Today's good too, though.
You see, you take all that emotion and then somebody runs into you. Imagine what you go. You just go. You lose your cool. You lose all your stuff.
He does that to me again. I'm gonna wreck him.
And I think that's good. I think that you need to do that. I think what Kurt did was the right thing to do. Show your frustration, but then what I think Jeff Gordon is good at and Jimmy Johnson's good at, then they calm themselves really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that is what is neat about that piece. You can see how quickly some of the drivers calm and other drivers let it keep festering.
Right.
Let's go ahead and get into the highlights from the Sylvania 300 at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. As Jimmy said, trouble for Casey Kane. He blows an engine on lap 66.
Major, too. There was oil everywhere.
But don't you think there might be a snake in the wood pile? They fired their engine department this week.
That's a good point, but
they haven't had a failure all year long.
Yeah.
Depending camp, all 4 teams finished every race.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson there on board with Carl Edwards, Denny Hamlin, and Tony Stewart bump. And Michael, I think that goes, as you said, to the intensity.
Yeah, you can't leave anything on the table, Steve. You've got to race every lap like it's the last lap. Whether you're racing for the championship or you're just simply trying to get the best finish you can to get as many points as you can for your team. Everybody is that intense. And so if a guy slips a little bit and if your car isn't right and you get a little bit loose, you're already on the edge. You're going to run into each other. And I think we saw a lot of that yesterday. I know on the cool-down lap, it seemed like about half of everybody was mad at someone else. They were all rubbing on top of each other, and I said, these people are really angry up ahead of me. And a couple of them were mad at my guys.
Anybody mad at you?
No, I was good.
We'll get
to your drivers later.
Yes, we will. Well, coming up next, tempers flared, both with drivers battling for the chase and those battling for a win. More highlights next. Later, a preview of Dover, where the 48 car won last time out. Who will win the second race in the chase? This week in NASCAR. We'll be right back. This Week in NASCAR is brought to you by Geico. Back with Jimmy Spencer, Greg Biffle, and Michael Waltrip. Time now to delve into the highlights. And yes, tempers did flare yesterday. Problems on pit road. We heard Kurt Busch angry at his crew chief, Pat Trice, and there he gets into David Reagan. Fortunately, nobody hurt on pit road.
Clearly the crew chief's fault. The driver's told to go, and he goes.
Well, in Kurt's defense, you cannot see.
No.
You cannot see right there where he hit. So you can. It looked like if you're at home, you might say, well, darn, he drove right into him, but you don't know what's going on.
Tony Stewart has an axle cap loose.
Yeah, and this
lost
here,
a lot of positions.
And this here, Darren Grubb very upset over this situation because remember back to last year in the chase when Kyle Busch had his problem, almost could have been the same situation. Tony did rally though and come back and finish, I think, 14th.
Greg, Darren Grubb, as Jimmy referred to, the crew chief said that was a human error, a mistake in their pre-race checklist.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that's what happens in these chases. I mean, you remember in 2005, we had a lug nut loose at Texas. Had to come back in running third, finished 20th.
You remember last year, 2008, Kyle Busch starts the chase as a guy that we think is going to win it. And his sway bar falls off.
I think you were going to win, was it Texas or something last year also, and they dropped the lug or something, or it might have been Carl.
Yeah, I was going to win.
Yeah, I think it was you.
I think it was the spring this year.
Somewhere.
Yeah, and those things happen. I mean, we make mistakes as humans. We make the mistakes behind the wheel.
As intense as it is on the track, it's equally as intense, and they're putting those cars together. I mean, just think of the pressure all those guys that are preparing the race car to go run that race are under, and sometimes you just mess up.
I think the frustrating part is that it's that outside cap. It's 3 bolts that were left loose, and that's what's frustrating, you know.
Brian Vickers had a loose lug nut as well, but he came back to finish 11th. Let's move ahead now. Restart. We're going to see guys 3 wide. We saw this a lot of the day. Hamlin, Newman, and Montoya. Montoya was aggressive.
And you know, there was 100 and some thousand people that were seeing this all day long too. What a great show you had at New Hampshire yesterday. What a great crowd. David Strimmy gets a little bit wide off turn 2. It looks like forever he's not going to spin out, and then eventually he does.
My spotter's like, God, there's going to be caution. No, there's not.
Yeah, there
is. Time for the Geico Greatest Pit Crew. Denny Hamlin gets 2 tires. Guys, he wins the race off pit road. And not everybody pitted there.
A great call, I think, to get 2 tires. I love 2 tires at Loudon. Staying out's also a great option, but 2 tires always seems to be fast at Loudon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move ahead now. Up front, Mark Martin is going to take the lead from Kurt Busch in that 2 car. And then we'll see contact between teammates.
What we're seeing here, too, Mark taking the lead. These guys are not all on the same pit strategy here. You guys just said 2 tires, 4 tires, and no tires.
Whoa, Jimmy Johnson gets sideways.
Teammates Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon.
Dale Jr. right up in the middle of it watching.
Yeah, he's not lapped here, fans. That's
Montoya into Jeff Burton.
Junior running the top 10 all day long. And Burton was going to show us his pleasure here shortly.
Yeah, Burton's one of those guys that says, I'm not real happy.
We saw plenty of those. There'll be more. Keep going, Steve.
That's right. That was just
Keep
one
going.
incident. All right, we're going to go now to the restart. Michael says keep going. 18 to go. Mark Martin gets a good lead on this restart.
What about the pressure, though, that Mark's under right there? Knowing he's got the best car, but you're putting the second-place guy right beside him and encouraging him to move you over a little bit. Mark doesn't have anything to do with that.
Jimmy mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr. having a good day. He was in the top 10. David Rudiman gets up into him. And Junior into the wall.
Talked to Rudiman. He felt terrible about that. The thing got loose, and he ran into Dale Jr. Talked to Dale Jr. We texted a little bit last night, and he said he doesn't hate Rudiman over it. It was just disappointing because he thought he could win the darn race. And I think as race fans, and we all are, it was good to see that 88 car running up front.
Yeah, I mean, how much I hated to see him in front of me. He was running very good up in the top 5, top 10, and you know, I was just going, dang, those are positions, but I was excited to see him running.
But it's so easy for that to happen. We saw Juan Pablo do the same thing to Jeff Burton. Burton just didn't crash. So it happens.
And we saw it last week, Michael, with Tony Stewart. I mean, Tony Stewart goes in the corner at Richmond and over brakes. And the fans, I think you've got to understand from the driver's perspective, they're trying to get everything they can out of these cars. So they're on the edge. These things happen in Rudiman's defense. David's story, but unfortunately it did ruin Dale's Jr. day, and he did have a shot of winning.
Well, if you want to win a picture of Mark Martin's first win in the chase, go to the speedtv.com site to enter the Picture of the Week giveaway. Click the show's tab at the top, go to the This Week in NASCAR page, and you'll see a link at the bottom to email us. Put 5 wins in the subject line, and you're entered. Be sure to put your shipping address in the email. The winner will be revealed next week. And when we come back, Juan Pablo Montoya looked dominant and had 3 double-file restarts to try to get the win from Mark Martin. Late race highlights upcoming, plus an on-track skirmish between a team owner and driver in the Truck Series. Stay with us.
The Greatest Pit Crew has been presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Time now to get into the late race highlights. When Mark Martin got the win, let's see how he did it. All right, restart with 13 laps to go. Martin and Kurt Busch on the front row. They get a push.
Isn't that crazy? We're talking about bump draft and trying to push guys to win races. I mean, this is how intense it is. If I don't think if Jimmy Johnson doesn't push Mark Martin, maybe Kurt Busch has the advantage into that turn.
Now, Juan Pablo made a move there, guys, underneath Denny and Jimmy for third. And then he goes on by Kurt, and now he's coming to full head of steam to catch Mark. Now, I'm telling you what do you think Mark's thinking now? Oh, my God. That was 47, just pretty PO'd at the 44 car.
The 44 had knocked the 44 had knocked the 47 out of the way
earlier in the lap previous.
Yeah,
off
in that
turn
run.
2.
Yeah.
Off turn 2, the 44 car fans cut down and hit the 47, and you know.
Michael, a lot of drivers expressed concern before the race about the double file restarts. What did you think about it?
I love them. I mean, if I'm a race fan, and I want to see them in the Truck Series. When the Truck Series lines up for a restart and they're all single file, I go, wow, that's not near as cool as the Cup Series. And you know, it's just part of the show. We're here. There's 100,000 people in the grandstands. We're there to entertain them. And race car drivers, they control what they're doing. The double file restart doesn't cause crashes. The drivers cause them by getting too aggressive, by trying to get more than they have coming to them. Look at Juan Pablo. 3 wide, he makes it work. Sometimes, though, 3 wide, you can't make it work.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work.
It's time now for the Castrol Edge smart move of the race, and it's going to go, no surprise here, Mark Martin for picking the outside for the restart. 3 laps to go, the 5 moves ahead of the 42, and I think it's important Mark gave him some room. Room.
He better give him some room.
Yeah, but still, give Juan Pablo credit too, guys. He did not push the issue here. Now, he comes right back down on the inside of Mark again, and they raced hard, and it was one of the best finishes I've seen at New Hampshire.
Well, I loved what I saw, Jimmy. You're exactly right. I love that Juan Pablo was driving as hard as he could, but he didn't cross that line.
Respected that drive.
He gave it just a little bit to say, I can't slide up into this dude.
Yeah. Greg, how confusing was it for you at the end of that race with the 44 there on the front stretch? Was the caution out? Was it not out? How confusing
was it? It was pretty clear to me the caution was out because the yellow light. I saw the yellow light coming off forward. Now, they may not have put the caution out. It may not have been apparent to the leaders at that point, you know, when they're coming off turn 4, because I was in 9th. But, you know, I saw the caution out for sure. They said the race is over. I'm rolling out of the gas nice and easy. And I got hit from behind. I think it was the 83 car. You know, and we don't race back to the caution.
When the light's on, it's over.
It's over.
You go back a ways even.
Yeah.
Where you've been, where you are doesn't even matter. It's where you were.
Yeah.
And, you know, the restart, or excuse me, the not racing back to the yellow, that all kind of started at Loudon a few years back. So it's
Dale
interesting.
Jarrett was sitting there. Yep.
Interesting. We've experienced why we don't race back to the yellow anymore.
Well, on Saturday, Kyle Busch won the Camping World Truck Series race, but the subplot was Kevin Harvick was driving one of his own trucks. His driver, Ron Hornaday, who's racing for a championship, they were racing each other pretty hard. Let's take a look.
Here is a battle between Kevin Harvick and Ron Hornaday for the lead. Harvick on the inside of Hornaday. And here comes Kevin Harvick. He was running second. He's on pit road. We heard they're going to put a splash of fuel in this.
Ron Hornaday now on pit road.
They put the gas can in. They're going to go 4.5 seconds back at him.
Now your race leader on pit road, Kyle Busch, now getting his splash of fuel.
And he was in here way less time than the 33.
I'm telling you, he has got a mirror full of Kevin Harvick, but he's not laying off for it.
Wow. And here's that caution flag we were talking about.
This is after the caution. The flag came out. He went up, let him know, hey, we've got some communication problems here.
Here goes Harvick, going to take a run at Hornaday.
And inside.
Going to the inside again. Inside of 5 laps to go.
Still outside.
Will they let him go this time? No, he does not. Kyle Busch is going to make it 3 in a row in the Camping World Truck Series. He wins the hell of a good 200. Kevin Harvick was the first one on pit road. He's the first one unbuckled, and he gets right back to the truck, leans in, and says to Ron, we don't know, but one of those things like, what were you thinking? I had a faster truck.
There was no thought process, obviously. You know, if you're going to have teamwork, you got to have a two-way street. So it's something that we'll address once we get to the shop. I feel like we had the best 2 trucks. The Duplicolor Chevrolet was good. And just poor communication between Rick Corelli and Hornaday and Rick Wren. And, you know, I felt like we gave it away.
That's a good one for the Copart Chevrolet, and we'll take that. I mean, I'm going to talk to him right now. I don't know what I've done wrong, so I got to find out.
2nd and 3rd for KHI, but no doubt about it, they're not satisfied.
Drama? You like drama? That's pretty cool. You got a guy racing for the championship. The dude that has given him the truck to go do that with thinks he needs to get by him in order to try to win the race. But I want to tip my cap cap to Richie Waters. He just continually impresses. He does what it takes to go win races. He did it on Saturday by just putting enough gas in that thing. And here's what happened. When Kyle left pit road, Richie was thinking, oh, he doesn't have enough gas. I mean, that's how close the decision was. He said, I got to get in and get out quick and get my guy on the road so he can get the lead. That's what he did, and that got him the victory. Great job by that whole team.
And did you hear what Kyle said? This is part of the radio scanner. Kyle said, we just stopped for gas. How could we not have enough? He's like, we just stopped.
I love that. He left pit road knowing he didn't have enough gas. That's awesome.
Yeah, but
that's gutsy.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I think with you guys, I know Richie Waters, those guys are good, but damn, Kyle Busch is good.
Yeah.
He's a wheel man. Well, the Camping World Truck Series back in action in Las Vegas. You'll see that this Saturday here on Speed. Coverage beginning at 9:30.
Ain't that a misprint? Ain't it Lost Wages Motor Speedway?
For most of us, it is.
Okay.
Hey, Spence, thanks, man. We appreciate it. We love having you on the show.
No sweat, man.
Yeah,
Glad
it's good you being here. I heard you were on here last week when I was in Italy, and everybody said that you don't have a restrictor plate.
Yeah,
You're
but
wide open.
They said you couldn't get in the Ferrari, and I said, yeah, they'll make a special seat for him or something.
It was fun.
When we come back, we'll ask Mike Helton what he thinks of the 2009 season for NASCAR. The economic situation has hit them as well. Plus, we'll preview Dover, where 8 of the 12 Chase drivers finished in the top 10 in May. You're watching This Week in NASCAR.
The smart move of the race has been presented by Castrol Edge. Think with your dipstick. Upgrade to new Castrol Edge Advanced Synthetic. Nothing offers better wear and protection.
This Week in NASCAR is brought to you by Geico. And now it's our pleasure to introduce the president of NASCAR. Mike Helton has been gracious enough in his busy week and busy schedule to join us. Are you sure that it's not too late to leave?
Actually, it is.
Spencer locked the door.
Feels like it's a little late. You know, it's been probably 8 or 10 years
It's
since
been a while.
You've been on our show, and I asked you then, and I'd like to follow up now. What are you making now? How much you up to?
Still less than you are.
Boy,
I love it.
Back then, I would have said, well, that's okay. But now, if you're making less than me, whew,
Yeah, times are tough.
it's bad.
He's got problems.
Mike, you were
We
talking.
lost Schrader along the way, too, didn't
Yeah,
we?
we can't find him anywhere.
He's
off
dirt
of his-
racing somewhere.
Yeah, he's got his dirt car out somewhere.
Mike, you jokingly said times are tough, but you know what? They really are. And I was amazed in New Hampshire, the crowd that they had. We know there's been a recession. Fortunately, it looks like the economy is coming around a little bit, although still a lot of people out of work. But I'm curious how internally, you as an organization, what have been the big challenges for NASCAR in this economic climate?
Well, obviously it's a function of fans being able to do what they want to do. That's our number one stakeholder in the sport. And so the other stakeholders rally around to make it possible for fans to do what they do and entertain them. And I think that's what we're seeing in 2009 is the adjustments being made, starting with the fans, sponsors, their relationships, how much activation they can do in the sport, how much promotion they can do in the sport. And then the racetracks and the race teams have to adapt to all of that. And I think that's what we're seeing unfold in 09. But along the way, what's encouraging is sponsors want to be in the sport. Fans want to come to the races. And that's evidenced even more so lately with Atlanta. We had a great weekend in Atlanta. Had a big crowd in New Hampshire this weekend. Big crowd in Richmond. So it's encouraging. But there's still, I think, some adjustments that we're going to have to kind of get used to.
Well, I think something that I'm really impressed by is the things that you guys have done to make racing more entertaining for the fans. I love the double file restart, but even more so than that, the drug testing policy, spending all the money you had to freeze the field and make it safer. I mean, y'all continue to invest in the sport so that we can make the fans entertain the race fans on Sunday. And my question is the chase format. I love it. I think it's a great idea. But is there any thought about changing the way you seed teams heading into the chase? For example, Tony Stewart won the regular season. Is there any thought that maybe that should be 10-point bonus for him winning the regular season, along with the bonuses that you give for drivers that win races?
Yeah, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, and we spend a lot of time, all the time, listening to input from others and noodling it out ourselves internally. we're in a period right now where the chase has got some maturity to it. And I think that's what you're seeing happen on the racetrack. You guys now have got some time under your belt dealing with the chase. The fans are becoming more aware of it, more smart about it, being able to follow it better. And that's what consistency does. And so the chase, I think we're now beginning to see all of that make more sense. And we had a heck of a chase going into Richmond where a lot of folks
I was a little nervous.
There was a majority of the competitors that are now in the chase wasn't sure about it going into Richmond.
Right.
So all those things are coming together. But we constantly look at the moving parts and pieces around a chase to see if there's not a better way of doing it.
Speaking of consistency, Mike, what about we hear a lot of talk about the consistency of start times. Has there been any? I know TV really drives our start times and what schedule we're able to hold, but is there any thought process on the same time every week, like 1 o'clock,
like the NFL?
Sure.
Yes. To answer your question shortly, and then I need to explain it. But there is a lot of talk going on right now to try to come up with a better menu, if you will, for fans to be able to follow it in regards to television. There's also a balance to make it work for the fans that come to the racetrack.
Sure.
And there's a balance. We shifted, the industry kind of shifted to later start times that might work for television audiences. But it's the promoters and the fans are telling us, well, wait a minute, if I want to go see the race, if it's a day race, then these 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock starts for me to get to the racetrack and get back home and get to work the next day put a little bit of a bind on me.
Tougher
So we're trying to figure out that balance and trying to make sure that we do that right. And I think in 2010 we'll see some changes.
Okay.
Mike, I got a great email question from a fan named Linda in the state of Washington, and it hadn't even occurred to me because I look at what's in front of me. But her question was, for you, how far out does NASCAR look? How far out does your planning go? Do you have a 5-year plan if you know where you want to be as a sanctioning body?
Well, there's two elements in our business. One is the business element, and NASCAR has an evergreening 5-year business plan that it looks at that we cycle through every year and update it. There's also a sports planning part of our business. Since we're the stewards of the sport, then there's a good deal of responsibility on our part to look ahead, if you will. But there's a lot of moving parts and pieces in NASCAR that other professional sports don't have, that we have to be flexible to, so to speak. If the track owner wants to do something different, then we have to be flexible. Team ownerships, if they change, and as we've seen the mergers and conversions take place, we have to be flexible and try to be reactive to that. But what NASCAR is today is very proactive, and there are a lot of business elements that NASCAR can manage and be prepared for, and then there's some things though that NASCAR needs to be flexible and reactive to, and there's a lot of models sitting there, what ifs. That we have to pull out and say, well, we talked about this, now what are we going to do?
I'll tell you one thing that I love, I've been doing this for a long time, obviously, the open door policy between NASCAR and the competitors. You've got an idea, you want to bounce off those guys. Mike Kelton is right there. He'll listen to your idea, and 9 times out of 10,
yours are crazy.
Well, mine are, I've had some okay ones over the years, right? I've done a few good ideas. I've seen some movement.
It's a big barrel with you, and there are some that you pull out that actually are good, and I'll tell you one of the first ones that Michael walked up to, and he convinced Bill Jr. to say, we'll take a look at this weight deal, and Michael was the authorship of the weight that we add to the drivers.
But I learned a long time ago, when they say we'll take a look at this, that's almost like saying, leave me alone. we'll take a look at this. Sometimes doesn't mean exactly what you hoped it would, but I tell you what, you would be so proud as a competitor to know that the people that make the decisions are right there and willing to listen and hear what you got to say.
I never knew you were a pioneer.
I am. There's a bunch of things about me you don't know, Steve.
Oh, bet. Up next, a look at Dover. The track is high bank, fast and exciting, but with speed comes chances for a big wreck. The track is tight, and many times there's nowhere to go. This weekend, NASCAR will be right back.
Wow, look at Ruderman right there. Oh.
The track in Dover, Delaware is known as the Monster Mile, and folks, that's not hype. It's a track that lives up to its nickname. Let's hear from some of the competitors about that White Lightning racetrack.
Dover, it's Bristol on steroids. It's like riding a roller coaster for 400 miles.
Because it's concrete, because it's high bank, it's not very wide, there's always some action there.
Dover is a monster because it'll bite you in a minute.
You can't make any mistakes or you pay for them dearly.
To me, it's just a lot of fun to race there. It's a track that doesn't change a whole lot, so once you usually get your car right, it stays right.
It's real fast and high banked, and it's really challenging. Even when you're by yourself and not racing against somebody there, it's a really challenging track.
Dover felt like that it had probably the most grip out of all the tracks. You know, the most G-load in the corners.
You're in the corner more than you are on the straightaway, but even when you're on the straightaway, you know, you're still not relaxed any. It's slanted pretty good.
The biggest thing about Dover is just, you know, running fast and, you know, keeping the car underneath you on the concrete surface, because it can have a lot of grip when it has grip, but as soon as you lose it, it's gone. Asphalt, you can kind of play around with it a little bit and slide a little bit more than you can on concrete.
Well, I love Dover, and all those things are saying about it. Fast, high bank, concrete. I mean, it's unforgiving. I tell you, that racetrack with the banking on the straightaways, you come up off the corner and get a little bit loose. You've got to be careful, because that thing, you'll end up in the inside wall in a hurry. And it's a monster. I mean, it does not give you a second chance.
If there's one track I'd want to put somebody in the right side of my race car and say, check out what I do every Sunday, I would take them straight to Dover, Delaware, because it is a crazy ride. You fly off into those corners so deep, so far, and the banking will hold you, but it's a thrill ride for sure.
Mike, we were talking in commercial about race control and how hectic that is. I'm curious, are there some tracks where your job is even tougher? Like, for example, is Dover a tough race for you guys?
Well, it depends on what happens on the racetrack. You know, we have control towers at the racetrack that it's hard for some of us to see out of, and you know, like Robin and I may be on the second row, and we're watching it on television because we can't see out the window, or from the window view we can't see what's going on. But it generally, you know, Bristol obviously is entertaining. And keeps you on your toes. Yesterday's race, quite frankly, was an all-day long progression of activity out there. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on yesterday, and so we stayed busy in the control tower. But they're all unique, and they're all. I was telling the guys, it was kind of like y'all's production room back there. Everybody's screaming and hollering, and sometimes, you know.
Didn't you just love the product though that you put on TV yesterday? It had to be awesome.
It was a great race. And we're all race fans up there, so you know, we're watching what we love to watch.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at the chase drivers and their relative success at Dover, Delaware. Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, all four-time winners at Dover.
Look at the starts for Mark Martin. 46. He's got almost double. He's got double of everybody but one cat in the whole chase. And you know, he has 4 wins at Dover, but he went into New Hampshire with 26 starts and no wins. So don't think that the stats tell the whole story.
And Greg, I remember you got an emotional win there. I was fortunate enough to be in victory lane with you was it a National Guardsman?
Yeah, it was 2 of the National Guard guys that have been, you know, came home from defending our country. Were there and spent the whole morning with us on Sunday. Went to the souvenir trailer and did the whole gamut, and you know, just listening to their story about what they went through and what they've done. And I remember about 3/4 of the way through the race, you know, I was running in the top 5, and I'm like, I got to buckle down to get this thing done, you know, and told them to take another 2 rounds of wedge out of this thing, and you know, made up some spots, got loose, lost some, but was able to get back to the front. And you know, it was the determination of those guys.
It was fantastic. Let's take a look at our coverage coming up for you in Dover. Why are you surprised, Michael?
I just like the way you said that.
It was fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Friday, 11 a.m., Sprint Cup practice, trackside. Jeff Gordon will join us for that, all times Eastern. And when Twin returns, we've got some email questions for the panel, including Mr. Helton. You don't want to miss. You're watching Twin. We'll be right back. This Week in NASCAR is brought to you by Geico. Time now for the ZMAX Fuel for Thought email segment. Question number 1, if NASCAR goes to fuel injection, how will this affect restarting cars that run out of gas? Greg Biffle's going to take that one.
Well, I know a little bit about fuel injection, and it has a return. It's an electric fuel pump, and has a return line to the tank, so it's always full of gas. As it, you know, ran out, as long as it had power, it would get fuel fairly quickly. So I think it would start a little bit easier. You won't see them pushing it all the way down pit road and not restarting once it has fuel.
Fuel injection, Mike? Okay, second question. Second question is for Mike Helton. Does a team that misses the show still get money for attempting to qualify, or do they go home with nothing?
Now, the prize money stops at the 43 positions that start the race. They do get points. There is a sequence of points that go to the in order of the fastest speeds that didn't make the field. They get points going home, but the prize money stops with the top 43.
But they do get points for attempting to make the show.
They do get points for attempting to make the show.
All right, next question. Do NASCAR drivers use the same Hans device every week or different ones? And Michael Waltrip.
Yeah, as long as you don't throw it at someone, you can use it again. If you don't crash, you'll wear it for a while, but every week NASCAR inspects your helmet and your Hans device to make sure there isn't any crack or aging and that your straps are all the way they're supposed to be. So you can wear them a pretty good while. I'd say all year long normally.
And so if they get thrown, Mike gets to take those and put them away.
He will get it from you. No doubt. It happens real quick too.
All right, time for our picture of the week. If you want a picture of Mark Martin's big win at the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, go to speedtv.com, click the show's tab at the top, go to the This Week in NASCAR page. You'll see a link at the bottom of the page to email us. Put 5 wins in the subject line and you're entered. Be sure to include your shipping address in the email.
This Week in NASCAR is presented by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And brought to you in part by Quality Hotels. Rates and rooms to put you at ease. Book at qualityinn.com.
Up next on Supercars Exposed, host Tanner Faust gets into hot water in a cool car on the roads of Miami. Then check out the Lamborghini for discriminating tastes, a totally customized ride, or is it art? And follow IndyCar star Tony Kanaan as he takes a spin off the track. Supercars Exposed coming at next at 9 Eastern right here on Speed. Next Monday night here on This Week in NASCAR, Michael Waltrip back with us, Chad Canals, and Jimmy Spencer, of course. That's at 8 o'clock Eastern. Got some minutes with Mike Helton, NASCAR president. How, in retrospect, looking back now, has the testing ban or changing the testing policy, has that worked well?
Yeah, we think it has. It obviously hasn't affected the competition on the racetrack. In some ways, you maybe even can argue that it's made it better. And certainly in the economic situations that exist, it makes all the sense in the world from the team owner's perspective. And some of the drivers kind of like having a little bit extra time to do things.
Yeah, I think as an owner, I love it. I know how much money it saves us, and as an organization, it takes some stress off our people and lets them stay at home more, which is great. We've always struggled for that in our sport. Yesterday, when the race was over, I watched them escorting my buddy Marcus Ambrose up toward that big yellow trailer. Was it busy in there? How was it after the race?
Yeah, we had a few minutes to spend waiting for the sun to set, and it was, we don't talk about the conversations that go on in there, but we just wanted to get his perspective on some of the things that happened out there.
Well, I remember the first time I was going that way, I thought I was really mad, and then I'm getting officials taking me, and I'm going, darn, I can be in trouble here. This could get big. And you get up in the trailer, and it's really interesting because as a driver, you're just coming off an intense race, and they're just sitting there going, explain to me exactly what you were thinking.
Yeah, it looks a lot different right now. What about double file restarts maybe in the Truck Series? I know the fans really liked it in the Nationwide and the Sprint Cup.
Yeah, and we'd like to get it into the Truck Series. One of the things that we hesitated doing for 09 was making it more complicated. And with the dual pit stops we've got in the Truck Series right now, and as we went through the process and the procedures of how to regulate and what the expectations would be from the competitors, we realized that the current pit stop cycle that we use in the Truck Series, when you add the double file restart shootout style to it, it gets a little bit complicated for us to officiate it, which means it's going to be really complicated to understand from the competitor side and from the fan side. So we're trying to sort all that out, but our goal is to go into 2010 with double file restarts in the Truck Series.
Do you like that? Sorry, Mike.
There you go.
Do you like the two pit stop with the fuel on one side and then the tires? I mean, does that work the way you guys expected it to, or would you like to tweak that?
Well, I think it offers, the reason we did it was to try to save the truck teams some expenses. And and that part's worked. Now the question is whether or not we can do something else to offset that and then free it up.
I'd like to take one of the tire carriers away. If I'll get with you that next week. You'll take a look at it?
One of his pioneering ideas.
Mike,
thanks very much. We appreciate your time.
That would save money.